What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Pimo, aka Fantasy Heavyweight, and today we will be breaking down the AFC South in search of best values, breakout candidates, and overpriced players. First up, we have the Indianapolis Colts. Win total set at 7.5, implied team total set at 23.4 points per game, and they have the fifth easiest strength of schedule in the NFL. My best value on the Colts is Jonathan Taylor coming off the board as the RB4. During his 13-game stretch with Daniel Jones last season, Taylor was the unquestioned number one player in fantasy, averaging 23.8 points per game, rushing for 1,300 yards, and scoring 18 touchdowns. If Taylor had played the entire season with Daniel Jones, he would undoubtedly be in the conversation as the consensus 101 in fantasy drafts this year. I know Jones is coming off the Achilles tear, but that could benefit Taylor's production. We could see fewer scrambles, fewer rushing touchdowns, and more checkdowns when plays break down, leading to an even larger workload for JT. At his price, you can be getting the 101 at a discount. I don't have a most overpriced player on the Colts because for the most part, I think everyone on this team is being drafted appropriately. However, the player I'm personally avoiding on this team is Josh Downs. His situation definitely improved after Michael Pittman Jr. was traded, but I'm still not completely sold on Downs. And there are several players in this range who I'd rather select, such as Michael Pittman Jr., Harold Fannin Jr., Jordan Addison, and a bunch of great late-round quarterbacks. And finally, for my breakout candidate, I have Tyler Warren. As a rookie, he was the tight end 2 with Daniel Jones healthy, and could realistically lead this entire Colts offense in targets. I believe Warren can challenge the elite tier of tight ends and potentially compete for the overall tight end 1 spot. Here's their strength of schedule for the playoffs. They have the 5th ranked playoff schedule, 1 being the easiest. Shout out to Fantasy Football Advice for the chart. As you can see, they play the Titans, Bengals, and Browns in weeks 15 through 17. If you ask me, that's pretty good. JT could absolutely light the playoffs on fire. Next up, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. Win total set at 8.5 games, implied team total set at 23.5 points per game, and their strength of schedule ranks 11th in the NFL. I have high hopes for this Jags team going into its second season under Liam Cohen, and if they were able to beat the Bills in last year's playoff game, I think they would have made a deep run, making all Jags players a lot more expensive. So maybe we're currently looking at a discount on some of these Jags pieces. The Jaguars have plenty of weapons and have a great opportunity to build on last season's success. For my best value, I have Trevor Lawrence coming off the board as the QB10. Lawrence finished last season as the QB4, delivering the best fantasy season of his career. Now he's entering his second year in Liam Cohen's offense, has a plethora of weapons around him, and offers legitimate rushing upside. Lawrence scored 9 rushing touchdowns last season, and I believe he could flirt with that number again with Travis Etienne leaving in free agency. So look for Jacksonville to continue leaning on Lawrence around the goal line. And after finishing as the QB4, getting him as the QB10 could be a massive steal. Now I know people are going to be mad at me for this one, but for my most overpriced Jaguar, I have Bashal Tutin, who was going in the 5th round of fantasy football drafts. Now, I completely acknowledge Tutin has the opportunity to absolutely nuke in fantasy this season. However, with Chris Rodriguez easing his way back in from injury and LaQuint Allen potentially stealing receiving work, I'm not ready to buy into this hype at his current price. There's a lot of questions surrounding his workload that a 5th round price tag feels a little too expensive for me. And finally, for my breakout candidate, I have Parker Washington coming off the board as the wide receiver 33. Washington ended last season on fire and followed that up with a huge performance against the Bills in the playoffs. Jaguars coaches have been raving about him throughout training camp, and all I see is clip after clip of him making plays in practice. The drumbeat is getting louder by the day, and he has a legitimate opportunity to be the number 1 wide receiver in this offense. If Washington carries that late season momentum and training camp momentum into this year, his wide receiver 33 price could end up looking like a massive steal. Here's their strength of schedule for the playoffs. They have the 16th ranked playoff schedule. You see they play the Texans, Cowboys, and Commanders. At Texans could be very tough, but if you can get past that game versus the Cowboys and then versus the Commanders are nutted matchups. Next up, we have the Houston Texans. Win total set at 9.5, implied team total set at 22.5 points per game, and their strength of schedule ranks 7th in the NFL. My best value on the Houston Texans is David Montgomery coming off the board as the RB23. After requesting a trade and Houston going out to get him, Montgomery finally has an opportunity to operate as the clear RB1 again. He is a proven volume runner, joining a team with an elite defense, which is a recipe for success in fantasy football. He will consistently be in positive game scripts and create plenty of opportunities near the goal line. Montgomery has always been a reliable touchdown scorer, and I believe has a legitimate double-digit touchdown upside in this offense. If he receives the workload I'm expecting, an RB23 price tag could be a massive steal. I don't have a most overpriced player on the Houston Texans, but maybe you can say Nico Collins, since he's never finished a full season and is currently going at the back half of the 2nd round. But for the most part, I think their main fantasy options are currently being drafted appropriately. For my breakout candidate, I have Jaden Higgins coming off the board as the wide receiver 52. There is a lot of training camp buzz surrounding Higgins. He has consistently won matchups against Houston's starting secondary, including making multiple catches against Derek Stingley Jr. Plus, his teammates have also specifically mentioned the improved chemistry between him and CJ Stroud. We already saw flashes of his potential as a rookie, finishing last season with 41 receptions, 525 yards, and 6 touchdowns, despite playing only 58% of Houston's offensive snaps. If Higgins earns a full-time role and continues developing his connection with Stroud, he has an excellent chance to outperform his wide receiver 52 price tag and establish himself as one of the biggest breakout receivers this season. Here's their strength of schedule for the playoffs. They have the 28th ranked playoff schedule facing the Jags, Eagles, and Packers. All very solid defenses. I could see the games being low-scoring defensive battles, but I wouldn't worry too much about the playoff schedule. I wouldn't definitively make a decision based on this, but it's good to have in your back pocket when you're making tiebreakers. And for the last team in the AFC South, we have the Tennessee Titans. Win total set at 6.5. Implied team total set at 20.6 points per game, and their strength of schedule ranks 8th in the NFL. My best value and breakout candidate on the Titans is Carnell Tate, coming off the board as the wide receiver 30. Tennessee selected Tate with the 4th overall pick in the NFL draft, telling me that they expect him to become the centerpiece of their passing game. I wouldn't say Tate is the cheapest, highly drafted rookie receiver we've ever seen, but wide receiver 30 is still a surprisingly affordable price for the 4th overall selection in this year's NFL draft. We've seen similarly talented rookie wide receivers drafted much more aggressively in fantasy, yet Tate is available as a borderline wide receiver 3. It could obviously be that he was drafted to the Tennessee Titans, but I believe Ward takes another step up this year and that the new coaching regime makes this team a lot more productive. There will naturally be some uncertainty with any rookie wide receiver, but Tate has the draft capital, talent, and opportunity to immediately become Cam Ward's #1 target, and at his current price, I believe we're getting both a reasonable floor and legitimate breakout upside down the stretch, if not immediately. I don't have a most overpriced player on the Titans, however, there is a player I'm avoiding, and it's Calvin Ridley. Ridley is one of those players whose name still catches your attention when you see him on draft day, but when you look past his name, I'm concerned that his time as a consistent, valuable fantasy asset may be over. Tennessee brought in Wan'Dale Robinson and drafted Tate 4th overall, making him at most a wide receiver 3 on a semi-decent team, so I don't think he's worth any draft capital on draft day. Here's their strength of schedule for the playoffs. They have the 6th easiest playoff schedule. They face Indianapolis, Las Vegas, and Pittsburgh. I do like the game versus the Colts and the Raiders. The game versus Pittsburgh is a toss-up. They are at home though, but overall, I like their playoff schedule, and I can see a player from the Titans, Carnell Tate, as being a player you need in weeks 15, 16, 17. But yeah, that's all I have for y'all today. Appreciate you if you made it to this part of the video. We have the AFC West next, so stay tuned for that, and I'll catch you in the next one.